Imagine turning any car into a self-driving robot on wheels with just a $2,500 retrofit. That's Wayve's bold promise. This UK-based innovator is shaking up autonomous driving with its AV2 platform, 7 cameras, NVIDIA's Drive Orin chip, and a camera-first AI that's learning to navigate London's chaotic streets. Backed by Uber, Microsoft, Wayve's ready to challenge Tesla's vision-only full self-driving juggernaut. But with Wayve's ties to Transport for London and the UK government, is Tesla's FSD facing roadblocks? Join us as we dive into the tech, the costs, and the curious question: will Wayve's retrofit revolution outpace Tesla, or is Musk's data empire unstoppable? With me to discuss is engineer extraordinaire Dave Dewson, backed by popular demand, and can hopefully break this down to my level of understanding. So how you doing, Dave?
I'm brilliant. Thanks, Will. Yeah,
Excellent.
We'll try our best, as always.
Yeah, well, I've got a Dave to discuss Wayve, so that's good, isn't it? So what's your impressions of Wayve's solution to solving autonomy?
It's nice. With the videos I've seen of it driving through London, it looks great. It looks really good. It does makes the right kind of decisions. It seems to be working very well for them. There's a lot of effort gone into the method of doing it, which is essentially end-to-end neural network. They've got a lot of reinforcement learning going on, so they're able to correct any errors that the system does with reinforced learning, repeat and repeat. It works well. The drive looks smooth, the cars look smooth. When I watch their videos, I'm looking for, or any videos of self-driving vehicles, I'm looking at steering wheel, because usually the videos you can see the steering wheel. If the steering wheel's really steady when it's going down the road, and when it turns a corner, if it turns the wheel really smoothly, they're getting there. If you see the wheel shaking as it's going around corners, watch some of Waymo's stuff, you could see the wheels shaking, that it's like oscillating backwards and forwards. That worries me, because that looks like overtuned control loops, and they go resonant if they get too far. So and they lose control. So you've got to be really careful of that stuff. But yeah, they look great. They're using, as you said, they're actually using they're working on the Thor AGX platform, which is the next NVIDIA system. They've just got a new compute box. They had a thing on X. They're handing over their new compute box from the main man at NVIDIA. Yeah.
Well, let me just mention some of Wayve's key points then, before we get into a bit more depth and a few other questions about how it's going to affect Tesla and the advancements that they're working on. So they can retrofit cars with Wayve's AV2 platform. So it's got 7 cameras for a 360-degree view, and NVIDIA's Drive Orin system on chip. So it's basically just like a bolt-on unit that can sit on top of any car. And at the moment, the total cost is about £8,000, but they're planning to, they're aiming for about £2,500 by the year 2035. So they seem to have good indication of where they need to get to in order for it to become one day ubiquitous on the roads.
Yes, it's a general solution again. Questions that come to mind are, what cameras are they using? Are they going in and reading the camera's raw data? Are they reading it from before the image signal processor to get raw photon counts, which is what Tesla call it, because that gives you a significant amount of detail that you wouldn't normally get if you're leaving the signal processor in place. Now, I would assume that they're retrofitting cameras, and this is where we don't know, do we? We don't know what they're doing, really. They must be retrofitting cameras into the vehicles to give them the quality they need and the refresh rates they need to achieve safety in those vehicles to speed. Because if you can't read the cameras quick enough, you won't be able to drive the vehicle at any significant speed, because it's not updating quick enough.
So they are using vision only and AI, but they're not. But they're only using lidar for sort of calibration. I assume they're not using it as part of their right.
Same way.
They've got radar in there as well, then.
The vehicles have probably got radar already. Whether they'll use it, I'm not sure. I bet they won't use it. I bet they'll find they don't need it. The vehicle's safety systems will already have radar on it. So like they're using Mackie at the minute, which will have front radar and probably has side radar as well for looking at pedestrian safety, all that kind of stuff. And all of that stuff usually remains active in the vehicle. So it'll be as good as a Mackie is, at least as good as a Mackie, standard Mackie. The radar will take over the brake system and stop the vehicle in the same way it does in every car. And then the compute system is they're using both. They've got the new Thor AGX. They've got the other one as well, which is what's been running in their vehicles so far. They basically fill the lower part of the boot with compute stuff. There's a few of their videos show the under tray, under the, the underfloor bit of the boot in most EVs. You can see underneath, and it's just full of. So the underfloor's gone in the boot. It's full of compute hardware.
It's not just the bar on the top. Then it's you've got to fill your car with a computer system as well, and they're trying to get that down to a cost of £2,500. Does that seem like a reasonable goal for that much equipment?
They have a partnership with Nissan as well, and they're working. It looks like they're basically augmenting Nissan's ProPilot to. I suspect they're just replacing it completely with their own system, and that will have integrated stuff. So once they start integrating into the end users' vehicles or the manufacturers' vehicles, that these costs will come down because they can they're building the stuff, they're buying at volume, they're all that economies of scale kind of thing, stuff that kicks in, and you're not putting pods on top of the vehicle, you're integrating cameras into the trim bits in the bumpers or in the side pillars or whatever you put them.
There will be a solution that isn't a bolt-on then. It would be built into the cars at some point.
Eventually, yeah. I think
eventually.
Prototypes are just using bolt-on bits at the minute.
Yeah. So retrofitting any car like that, you've got a lot of costs involved, surely, just in the labour. Yeah.
To make it work properly, you need to kind of isolate the steering system, and the most cars have a thing called iBooster, which is a brake. It's the Bosch brake system. That's what makes regen braking work, and integrating between the normal brake system and the ABS and all that kind of stuff. You'd have to interrupt all the comms feeds to those. So you're going to have to put wiring into the vehicle and interrupt all the signals that normally come from the car, either pass them through from the car or pass them through their box. To allow them to control the vehicle directly, because they need to steer the vehicle, don't they? They need to brake and accelerate, and they need to steer the vehicle, and they need to operate the indicators. So the indicators is an easy one because it's just you can do it. Have you seen what's the system you can get for a tester? You've got one in your car, the button, the knob.
My sexy knob.
Yeah, your sexy knob.
And buy Enhance. If you'd like some money off your sexy knob or Enhance products, you can do indicators or anything. I think it's about 10% off if you use my discount code in the description below. Thank you very much. Shameless. I know. I need to make some money somehow. Let me stop you for a couple of questions.
Send me £10 later, Will.
Commission in the post. Thanks, Dave. Judging by all the gear you've got behind you, you don't need many more toys, surely.
I don't know. No, I have lots of retro, don't I?
You do. Looks great. You can tell you're an engineer just from the room you're in compared to my blank canvas. This is my blank brain, and that's yours. Anyway,
my brain's full of rubbish like this. Look.
Right. Some questions. I'm just thinking as we were talking there. So I can see this unit being pretty useful for a company like Uber, which have now partnered with them to retrofit a number of vehicles, and that would make sense to have autonomous vehicles driving around all the time. How do you see it as a sort of commercial vehicle, though? Do you think people will want to buy a system for their own car to bolt on or get retrofitted after they bought the vehicles, or is there or do you think there's another route where Wayve could integrate their technology at the manufacturing process for a car company?
No, I don't know. But I think what they're using is they've got donor vehicles that they've retrofitted stuff to prove the concept of the thing, to gather data on the road, and also to demonstrate what they're able to do with it. So they've done that. That's how they've chosen to do it. They've chosen to retrofit it. I think any tie-ups with manufacturers, they'll build it into the manufacturer's equipment. I don't think it'll be add-on. I don't think they'll sell it as an add-on. You obviously got to look at how they're going to make money out of it, and it looks like there's going to be a subscription platform to generate revenue from the vehicles that use this stuff. But I would suspect that the manufacturers are going to want to charge extra to add all this gear into the car, but then Wayve will work closely with those manufacturers to integrate the equipment into their vehicles and ensure that it's all in the right places and calibrated properly, and able to be produced as a car down a production line, just like always. I'm just thinking about vertical integration, though. There isn't any there, is there? Wayve are very clear. They're a software company. They make software products. They don't even make hardware. So, all right. They don't make their own hardware. It's NVIDIA's hardware doing all the compute. The NVIDIA hardware will have various layers to allow it to control actuators and simulate signals on buses and things like that inside the vehicle, so it can take take control of the vehicle and drive all that stuff directly. They just do software. That's what they do. They do AI platform software, and they do simulation tools. You read their website; they've got papers on everything for all the different platforms and bits and pieces they've done. I think it's called Gaia 2 is their simulation tool, which you can drive a vehicle around. Probably got some lidar on it and some cameras, and they will build full maps of city centres, and then you can replay and reposition the vehicle and change and generate situations that to give you your training data that will allow your models to train correctly. Because if you don't have that stuff, you don't have that data. If you haven't got a million vehicles driving around collecting data all the time, you need to generate that stuff some other way. And obviously, simulation is very good. It's hard to tell that you're watching simulations sometimes.
But you believe that they've got the solution, to crack vision only at a scale that's equal to Tesla or even more advanced. What do you think?
I think they're on the same track with it. I mean, they're not going to be exactly the same, but I'm pretty sure they've got that. What they're doing is end-to-end neural nets on a vision-based system, and they'll be using lidar again to generate the precise data that they need to train the system and calibrate the systems. And beyond that, it's very, very similar. The only thing with it is that, again, the cost is going to be off the scale compared to what Tesla are doing, because they're already building cars with all the hardware in. That stuff's there. The cameras are all there. All the integration's done. They've laid all that groundwork is already there to make it happen. So they don't have to do that.
This is what every other car manufacturer and autonomous car company are going to come up against at some point. The realization that Tesla have already got millions of cars on the road with the hardware necessary. They're producing 2 million cars every year. And then on top of that, they'll be producing the Cybercab at some point for a fraction of the cost. And then anyone will be able to buy an autonomous car for their own personal use. Or to use on the robotaxi network. It's going to be very difficult in the future to compete with Tesla, but we're not there yet, are we? Not quite there.
The same thing applies, though, doesn't it? With what? So Tesla are saying they can't build every single car in the world. They need help to make all these electric vehicles. So they can't build all those vehicles. They need other people to build great EVs to fill in the gaps, really, because they just can't build enough cars on their own to do it.
Oh no, I'm massively impressed with what Wayve have achieved so far. It does look to be a really exciting company to watch, doesn't it? Let's move a bit onto regulation then, and the ties that Wayve have. So, how much do you think Wayve's rapid regulatory approvals for autonomous trials in the UK are influenced by their insider connections? So, like former government employees, or their team, and strong Cambridge University ties as well.
It helps, doesn't it? You've got direct employees from TfL, Transport for London. You've got direct employees from government, people who worked in legislation, DfT that were employed. There's an employee from DfT. That stuff definitely helps. They're already in a position to demonstrate. They've got a demonstrator. They've got it looks like a really good platform. If they can demonstrate it to the legislation people and go, and they're in contact with those people because they probably used to work with each other in some way or another. So they literally can get a connection straight in there and go, here we go. Here's this vision-based system with neural nets, end-to-end neural nets, and look at how great it is. And they can go and drive around London or whatever. And they've been doing it all over the world, haven't they? They've been focused on expanding around the world. This one of their documents states that they've got somebody at the UNECE. They're on I think they're on one of the secretaries or something. He's actually a Wayve person. They're clearly advising on safety approach and testing how we're going to make regulations for autonomous vehicles.
It's a good strategy, I suppose, because they've got everyone in place. But you also sent me this little nugget of information here. So what's the important part that you'd like to share with this then?
It's just that they're open and honest about their involvement.
Wayve is closely participating in the development of vehicle regulations with the UNECE, supporting the development of stringent technical regulations for a range of automation levels, including as co-secretary for UN Regulation 171, driver control assistance systems, and as an industry co-pilot for automated driving systems. So they do seem to have close ties with the regulators themselves.
Yes, it's a common thing, to be honest. One of the brake systems that I worked on the last few years, the radar and brake systems was developed by a large company. They've been doing these things for decades. And when this thing was being developed, they worked with the regulators, together with the regulators, to define the regulations. And actually, it turned out that there were several rules put in that covered things that that radars weren't particularly strong at. So determining straight radars, determining static objects, again, is it a railing or is it another car, or is it like a safety railing for a pedestrian crossing? So they put stuff in that says that we can sense these things, but we can't sense these things, and that's written into the regulation. And because the hardware manufacturer worked with the regulation people, they ended up with a regulation that fitted exactly what their system could do, and it also covered the things that it couldn't do. Right. So this is common. It does happen.
Yeah, okay.
They need technical experts to help write regulation around these things. And as long as you've got the right technical experts giving input into these things, you end up with a good reg that you can then, everybody can go off and do their thing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, and a quick side note as well, I made a video yesterday about NHTSA advancing its autonomous vehicle framework, which seemed rather exciting and progressive for Tesla regulations. But it turns out the article I was reading from Not a Tesla App, which was shared by Sawyer Merritt and Farzad, it did have a few mistakes in it, and it wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it was. So I do have to put out a brief apology just to say that NHTSA are not fully shifting to a performance-only framework. They are still tweaking existing rules and using exemptions, not creating entirely new standards, which is what I was led to believe by making a video. So, yeah, shame on me for not doing my extra fact-checking. But yeah, I was talking to Grok about it, and Grok was like, "Yeah, that's all totally right."
Yeah, it is. It's good and bad, because if there are no regs in the first place, then you can kind of do stuff. If there are lots of regulations that tie everything down, and it ends up tied down along the wrong path, you can be in big trouble, because you've got to change the regulations to make the thing.
Yes, and for right, let's say a lidar company to be involved in making the regulations for future autonomous cars, going, well, every car needs a lidar. That would be utterly ridiculous.
So that's the thing. That's the key thing with Wayve for me, is that Wayve did initial testing with lidar, so they had quite a lot of lidar on their vehicle. It was purely for data collection and for calibration work, and then building models that they could then simulate from. So they're generating precise point maps around cities, around London, around a lot, because they're based in London, so they're going to use London as a test bed. They're using those sensors, and they're using the onboard compute in the vehicle to gather lots and lots and lots of data and generate really high resolution models of the city of London, all around it, every street, every corner, everything. And that, but what's brilliant about it is that they've then taken it all on, gone, we can do this with just cameras. We can take that data, just cameras is good enough, and we can just use cameras and our really nice neural net that will allow us to make all these things work. So it's great that there's somebody else who is, and there are others, there's Chinese manufacturers are doing it as well. We don't tend to hear so much about those because they're not here. They've not been released in these countries, in Europe or anything. So we don't see them much. It's great to see that there's another vision-based neural net system that's working and doing the job that it needs to do.
Yeah, and it should, of course, speed up the process of getting safer cars on the roads. That's the whole point, isn't it? But as Grok told me the other day, and I wrote this down, the overall probability, Grok suggests, is estimated between 60 to 70% chance of supervised FSD approval by mid-2026, and that rises to 80% by 2027, assuming no major incidents. Wayve's Transport for London ties don't block Tesla outright, but it could slow it in London, e.g. requiring separate trials. What do you think of that? How would Wayve impact Tesla's implementation of FSD in the UK?
I'm not sure it would. It really does depend on how they're going to define the test for the system. So how are they going to approve the system in the first place? Are they going to, they use the typical route of kit up several vehicles with lots of cameras and extra cameras and data logging equipment, and set them off driving around with safety drivers behind the wheel, collecting lots and lots of data, and see how they behave and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do? Feels like a long-winded way. Are they going to insist on doing simulation work where you don't have vehicles at all, you just take the compute module and you simulate all the video into it from your simulation, and you iterate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of driving situations directly into the model with pure simulation? But you've got the Tesla hardware and software in that loop of your test framework, and that's probably what they're helping to build as well. again, we don't
Yeah,
know.
well, ironically, this was the exciting point of my video yesterday that I made that was wrong. The idea that the tests would be based on, it doesn't matter what equipment the vehicles have, or how, the question is, will it spot X, and will it be able to stop in time for Y? That sort of driving test scenario where you could just put them through a particular test scenario. But it's different with autonomous cars, because if you pass your test in the UK, you do 45-minute tests, and then you're just free in the world to go and drive how you like. And unless you're in an accident, data isn't collected. But if you're in an autonomous vehicle, it's continually looked at and monitored, isn't it?
So the thing is, humans learn on their own. So a human can do a test, and they can meet a basic standard, and then as they drive throughout the years, they try things. They do lots of trial and error, and they find the things that work, and they find the things that don't, and they hopefully do the things that do work and don't do the things that don't work. Sometimes, like the lady who pulled out in front of me on the big motorway roundabout where I live this morning, and I had to stop because she just sailed straight out in front of me. AI is different because you are pushing the training into the model that you're running on these giant compute platforms, these huge supercomputers that you're running, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of situations, and lots of video and simulation clips. And then they do a thing called, so you get something good from that. But then they do a thing called reinforcement learning. The system then can score itself based on its own performance, and it can learn from that and reiterate through the compute platform again. And then you have a model that goes to the vehicle. But once the model's in the vehicle, it doesn't learn anymore. So it's not actually learning in the vehicle. The only way it can learn is by having a new model sent to it, because the compute required to generate those models is enormous and just wouldn't fit in a vehicle, and you couldn't, it wouldn't. We do about half a mile, just use all the battery, and that would be it. So you can't. So it doesn't learn as such unless it gets an update with a new model on it, and then it will have learned anything that's been plowed through in that training process. Reinforcement learning is a good way of doing things, because you've got to a good base level, and then you set the thing off doing situations, and it does things, and as it's doing stuff, it gets a point system. And if it's like, I don't know, it's like minus 50 points for running somebody over, it learns from the fact that if it goes and follows this own path and keeps hitting these bad scores, then it's not the right thing to do. And that means that the model can it literally reiterate on its own, and it will eventually learn that it shouldn't hit things, and it shouldn't run over curbs, and it shouldn't hit stuff in the road, and when it goes around a corner, it needs to do this path. It's really complicated, but
you make it sound so simple. That's great. You broke that down to my understanding, so that's perfect. Yeah.
But it is reinforcement learning is go and look it up. Ask Grok.
I do realise I don't need to know everything in the world. I just need to be. Some things to be just limited to my basic brain. So, well, thanks for explaining all that to me. Is there anything else you want to discuss about Wayve? I mean, apart from the fact that maybe we should, contact them ourselves and see if we can get a ride. Maybe both go together.
I'd love it. Yeah,
we'd perhaps be able to talk to them about it.
I've asked before, and Alex, their leader, he just ignored me. So
Oh, really? Well, maybe I'll use my massive sway of
use your enormous influence, Will, because actually, the ultimate test is getting out in the thing, isn't it?
I'd love to,
because you see these comments with Robotaxi. Everybody's Robotaxi is really smooth. And people have been in Waymo, and then they get in a Robotaxi, and they're like, "Oh, this is so smooth compared to the Waymo." And that's what I mean about this jittery steering thing and all that. You can feel it. The passengers can feel it. And you probably can't. Sometimes you can see it in videos, and sometimes you can't. But if it's bad, you can see it in videos. But ultimately, when you're sitting in the vehicle, it feels that's the slightest wrong move can make a passenger feel uncomfortable. Driving smoothly is hard, and good drivers can drive really, really smoothly, and the passengers just nod off and they don't even notice that they're being driven anywhere. And that's what we're aiming for with AI, isn't it? That's what we want.
Yeah, Okay, Dave, thanks so much for that. If any of you guys would love to support me, then please do head across to patreon.com/Tesla Jigsaw, where I do a weekly episode just for my Patreons, where I cover all sorts of news topics and speculations and a few rants here and there, and extended interviews, all sorts of things like that. So please do consider joining me and supporting independent content creators like me, because believe me, YouTube is not paying the bills. And thank you very much for Dave as well. So if you want to follow Dave, it's EV Smiles on X. Head on over to X and find Dave. And of course, check out these videos next as well. We've had a few conversations now, haven't we? I'm Will. This is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you, patrons. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.